It is 1888, with the upcoming Christmas holiday, and nearing winter, normally a festive season here in Victorian England. However, this year has been different. Fear and suspicion haunt the crowd, as an unidentified serial killer terrorises the streets of London. As of August, it is estimated that 4 murders have been committed by this unique individual. And now another body has just been reported, probably the 5th victim of that killer. The methods used in these murders are unbelievably brutal, and all the victims are women, in particular, sex workers. The details of their wounds are almost too horrifying to bear. But I'm a detective in the Metropolitan Police, and it is my duty to the people of London to thoroughly analyse the evidence with a sound mind. I wonder, will this 5th murder finally give us the information we need to solve these crimes? He has become known as Jack the Ripper, a nickname taken from one of the many letters we've received from the supposed murderer himself. Or, perhaps even, herself. The truth is, we've been left with very few clues about who this killer is. My investigative skills and capabilities have been tested with the unique nature of those murders. This isn't the first serial killer we've ever seen, but never before have I encountered killings so random nor so violent. It all began in August, when I investigated the murder of Mary Ann Nichols. It was notable because of the violence used. Mary Ann had been left in the middle of an alleyway, her throat cut so deeply she had almost been decapitated. I tried to set a deadline before the crime. The doctor working with us noted that her body was warm, so she had just been killed. I interviewed those nearby, but no one had heard or seen anything during the hour in which she would have been attacked. There was no evidence that she had been moved to this location after her death, no marks or blood along the road, but I considered the possibility. She was taken by ambulance to a mortuary where I could continue my investigation away from the growing crowd. Once there, I discovered she had also been cut down her abdomen and disemboweled. I went at once to fetch the doctor. Unfortunately, the greatest care is not always taken when it comes to autopsies. Before I could return to the mortuary with the doctor to perform a detailed post-mortem medical examination, 2 workers had stripped Mary Ann of all her clothes and washed her body. I wonder what missed opportunities we had because of that incident. The investigation expanded quickly the following month when there were 3 more murdered prostitutes found around the same area of Whitechapel. All had their throats slashed, and 2 had been mutilated, just like Mary Ann. The City of London Police joined the case along with several more of our own detectives, and countless volunteer citizens searched for clues. One of the volunteer investigators even received a letter, containing part of a kidney, which we believe to be from Catherine Eddowes, the 4th victim. Prior to this case, I had never spent so much time looking for relationships across several crimes. Now, it is the first thing I think about. There are other recent murders of women in London remains unsolved, but as I go through the files and notes, I see that they do not share enough similarities with these other 4 cases. Of course, in time, there is no telling how many murders could be linked back to this single terrorist. It's overwhelmingly frustrating. Forensic science in the late 19th century is quite limited. We cannot identify specific fingerprints or bodily fluids left behind by the perpetrator, as we have no way to properly analyze such physical evidence. Instead, much of my detective work has been quite psychological. I try to understand the killer's motive, look for patterns within the crime scenes and the many letters we receive, and discern what kind of abilities or resources someone would need to commit the crime. I interview as many people as I can, including those near the crime scenes, friends, and relatives of the victims, and other prostitutes. Because some victims were disemboweled or had body parts removed, I've specifically interrogated butchers, surgeons, and anyone with advanced knowledge of anatomy as a suspect. But so far, all of my suspects have had alibis. It doesn't help that police morale is at an all-time low. Prior to the murders, we'd been dealing with bickering and power struggles between our senior officials. Now, the killer taunts our ineptitude in his letters. Headlines and stories sensationalize these terrible crimes and cover the newsstands. No doubt, the journalists are the only ones benefiting from these attacks, as newspaper circulation and sales increase. As it is police procedure, we avoid working with or contacting the press. I believe they could put the integrity of the search at risk by releasing classified information. Now, it appears that Jack the Ripper has struck again, his fifth victim a woman named Mary Jane Kelly. I arrived at the scene more determined than ever. I don't think any of us were prepared for the sight we encountered. Peeking through the window into a bedroom, I saw a girl so horribly mutilated that she was not recognizable. She had been skinned, body parts had been hacked apart, organs taken out and butchered, blood was everywhere. Her eyes were still open, staring at us through the window with a look of astonishment. We had a photographer take pictures of the crime scene. I don't believe this has ever been done before by our department, and it is a big advancement for our investigative process. I wonder how much it matters, as the gruesome image of that victim is burned into my mind. This was by far the most horrific attack. But again, no new clues have led us anywhere. Will the murders get worse? How can they? How many more will suffer? My fellow detectives have begun to develop compelling theories around each of their favorite suspects. But I have to remind myself that theorizing alone will not lead to a conviction nor punishment. That is the difference between the work we do and the newspapers. To guarantee a successful conviction, I need to catch the criminal in the act or be able to extract a confession. And that is a tall order. I worry that, as the months drag on, we will never see justice for these victims. And we will only be left with theories about the mysterious evil that is Jack the Ripper.